TV Toastmasters. My name is Allison Bennett, and I'll be your host for this segment. Today, we are talking about leadership, and more importantly, leadership in the community. Our guest is Michael Brandt, and he is the Executive Director of Oregon City Chamber of Commerce. Michael, great to see you today.
Thanks for having me, Allison. I'm glad to be here.
I'm really excited about this program that you have coming up. Please tell us more about it.
Well, it's called Next Leaders of Oregon City, and it's designed to kind of foster and encourage the next generation of leadership that can impact and help Oregon City navigate the kind of growth and change that's taking part.
So there is a lot of growth and change coming up in the future for Oregon City, is that right?
Well, yeah, if you think about it, just 10 or 15 years ago, Oregon City was a blue-collar town on the edge of the metro area. Now we're definitely part of the metro area, and we're transforming into an area where creatives want to live. We're seeing housing development all over. So this is going to change the nature of the city, and what we need to do is prepare the next generation of leaders to help guide that change, that transformation.
So is that how this idea of this next leadership program came about, or is there something else in addition?
Well, within the Chamber of Commerce, it's one of our parts of our mission, is really to make this a great place to live and do business. So it really has become part of our mission to help foster that next generation of leadership, and we're going to be doing that through the Next Leaders program.
And tell me, how does that work? Like, what does that look like?
Okay. Well, it's a cohort-based program where once a month for 9 months, you will spend an entire day with your cohort, and each day is built around a different part of Oregon City. So there's an education day, there's a history day, there's an economy day, government day, so that the people get involved in understanding all the different parts that make a community work.
So there's an education day, 1 day a month. And then what else is there?
Okay, well, there's 1 day a month, right? But we also get into, there's really three benefits that people get out of here. One is developing their own personal leadership skills. And we do that by working with asset-based models, basically trying to draw out, okay, what are your world-class assets? Because that's the biggest impact you're going to have on Oregon City when you're working with those world-class assets. So we do that kind of leadership development, leadership awareness. We do the strategic awareness. So you have to understand all these different parts and how they work together, which is why we have a program day around education, a program day around economy, a program day around environment. You have to understand how those things interact so that it's like a mobile, right? Anytime you touch one part of the mobile, the other parts move. That's right. Unless you understand the entire mobile, you're not going to be as effective leader. And then the third part of it is to build a network. So you're going through the 9 months with this cohort, and you will build long-lasting relationships, long-lasting friendships. And that will help you, propel you in the future. It also gives you a base to work from as you take on new challenges in helping guide Oregon City in the next decade or two.
So as a cohort, you're going to be learning about different parts of city and city government. And what else are you doing? How are you working together? Okay,
so it's not just about education, but it's also really hands-on engagement. So it's trying to identify what are the big issues. So let's say when we look at K-12 education, that we have a big issue with funding in the state. Right? So what happens if we no longer rely upon Salem for the resources necessary to educate our youth? What do we do? And there's a question.
What do you do?
I don't know. That's what the next leaders are going to figure out.
Oh, I love that.
Right? So, and then we think about just things like with the changing nature of people wanting to move here, it's creating a lot of pressure on housing prices, which now are starting to push out a lot of our entry-level and people in the middle and lower income classes. Okay, what's that mean for the city? What's that mean for some of our service-oriented business? These are questions that you really need to grapple with if you're going to be a really effective leader for the future.
Well, these are great questions, and I like the fact that you're going to be working with lots of different people coming from different points of view, kind of pulling a melting pot in a way so that you can come up with the best possibilities for the future. That's what I hear you're doing. That is fantastic. So What kind of people are you looking for to come and be a part of this?
Great. So that really, this program works well for 3 different types of people.
Okay.
One are people who are new to Oregon City, who've just moved here, whether from the Portland metro area or from out of town, and needing to build a network or build awareness quickly. There are, you would call your mid-career professionals who are doing well, but really aspire to top leadership, whether that's in their company, whether that's in government, running for office, maybe it's about sitting on a board of a nonprofit. They want to step up.
Right.
Yeah. And then there are those who actually need to develop more of that personal and professional network. You know, so they need an opportunity to connect one-to-one with people, which you will do as a group as you go through this over the 9 months. You build long-term, lasting friendships, which I can attest to because I've been involved in one 25 years ago, and there's probably 3 of those people in that group who I still count as my really closest friends.
I know one of the difficulties of moving into a new community, or at least moving up into a community, is getting those great connections in today's day and age. So this sounds like a fantastic opportunity.
Sure.
Now, it's 1 day a month. Is that on a weekend or a weekday? Or?
It is the second Wednesday of each month, starting in September, running through until May. Yeah.
So if I work for an employer, what benefit is it to the employer to allow me to take that day off? To come be a part of it?
That's a great question. So you're looking at, like, okay, how can I take this really good employee that I have and make them great?
Love that.
Make them a lot more valuable to my company in addition to having a greater impact in the community. So what you're doing when you nurture your own employees to take bigger leadership in the community is that you're taking your company and even weaving it tighter into the fabric of Oregon City, which improves your employees' morale. It employs your social responsibility, and actually elevates your profile for your company.
And it's not going to take all my time, right?
Well, it's not going to take all your time, no. you have to get work done, right?
Okay.
It's like, and you have people have lives to live, so
exactly.
But the idea is that one day you dedicate 1 day a month.
Right.
There's another component to it where I'm going to encourage people to, as they develop their leadership talents and get a better understanding of their assets, then they can start thinking about their passion. Which one of these areas? Is it housing? Is it transportation? Is it higher education? And can I design some kind of project around that with some of my other cohorts to have some impact?
Now that sounds exciting. I know I'm a project-based person, and as you said before, I have made some of my best and closest friendships working on a project together. And then I've learned a lot, and then I've grown a lot in leadership. So the personal benefit is also not only becoming a better leader, but also becoming a better communicator and person to work with other people even better. Is that correct?
Sure. And then you have something also tangible to point to at the end. Like, hey, I worked on that. I worked on it. Yeah.
That is so exciting. Now, if people are interested in becoming a part of this cohort, this learning experience over 9 months, what's the process for that?
Okay, so the process, you have to be invited in, so which means you have to first apply.
Okay.
Right? And you can do it, you can apply through the chamber.
And what are you looking for? So in a person?
We are looking for people who have a hunger for something more in their lives.
Yes.
Right? That thinking like, okay, I'm doing good. I think I can excel. I think I can go higher. And so we do the application process, we do the interview process, and then you'll be invited into the cohort. Yeah.
That sounds exciting. Now, when does a cohort start and when does it end?
Okay. Begins actually September 12th, the second Wednesday of September.
Fantastic.
Runs through the second Wednesday of May. And then actually after that, then there's a graduation dinner that we do. It's going to be a big community event with a lot of our current leaders there welcoming you and that next group into, like, okay, now you're one of us, man. Now you get to sit at the adult table now.
I love that. So I hope you have room for several people, because I think after this interview, lots of people are going to be excited about being a part of this.
Yeah.
And is there a website, or is there something that people can quickly grab a pen and jot down a phone number or a website so they can easily contact you?
OregonCity.org, that is the chamber website, and you'll find all the information there. Easy enough to do. The application is there. It's a really short application. Throw yourself in, and then I will be giving you a call.
I love that. And
Yeah.
is there any last-minute comments that you want to say or nuggets that you want to give us?
You know, people ask me all the time, like, okay, where does this come from? Why are these leadership programs? There are leadership programs all across the country. And where they came from, actually generated, is in Atlanta. Back in the 1960s, Air France opened up a direct route between Paris and Atlanta. And so the city leaders went on this business junket to Paris, but on the way back, the plane crashed. And all of a sudden, Atlanta lost all this level of top leadership. And so they understood, like, wow, we have done nothing to groom the next generation. So if you think about, like, if a meteor hits Oregon City tomorrow and wipes out most of our leaders in government and business leaders and the nonprofit leaders, who's ready to take over? And, you know, and that's why this program is so important. And that's the potential you have, and that's why we call it the next leaders. You know, you are going to be the next leaders of Oregon City.
And you'll be well prepared to be the next leaders.
You'll be well prepared, yeah.
I love that.
Yep.
Thank you so much for being here today, and I hope you are as excited as I am about the Next Leaders program and also Toastmasters. You can check out a Toastmasters club anytime you want. Go to toastmasters.org, look for Find a Club, put in your zip code, and there's a lot of clubs that you can take a look at. Visit several of them, and we hope to see you again.
Good evening and welcome back to TV Toastmasters. I'm Michael Brand, and tonight we're going to be talking about alcoholism, we're going to be talking about recovery, we're going to talk about the issues that women have in recovery, and we're going to talk about how to become wholly sober. I'm really pleased to be joined tonight by Teresa Rodden, who has lived that experience to develop a program and a coaching practice targeting women in recovery. So let's get to work. Welcome, Teresa.
Hi, thank you.
So let's get really started. Why did you write Wholly Sober?
I wrote Wholly Sober because my story needed to be told.
All right, tell us about your story.
My story is that I was born into a legacy of misusing alcohol. My mother and my grandmothers both misused alcohol. My grandmother that I never met, she killed herself in drinking and driving, racing between bars, and knocked the church off its foundation with the engine in her lap. She was the only one that died at the scene. And then my grandmother misused my other grandmother misused alcohol. My mother misused alcohol, and I followed suit.
Okay.
Yeah.
So at what age did you get sober?
I got sober 15 years ago, and it was a one-shot thing. So
what happened? What happened that? Boom.
You know, there wasn't really any magic to it, except for I went into the emergency room with an anxiety attack, basically, and the doctor took the time to explain to me how alcohol wears a woman's body down a lot faster than it does a man's. And so with that education and he taught me how anxiety is actually like a springboard. So when you drink and you sober up, that it's like a springboard and it sends you right into anxiety from 1 to 100 instantly. And I was waking up with night terrors. So just with that information, I don't know, something struck me and I decided it's time to get sober.
Were you using alcohol as a way to treat your anxiety?
That's how I started, yes.
Okay.
Actually, that's how most women misuse alcohol, is because they have panic and anxiety, or they just need to shut down because their minds just don't stop.
Okay. So you get sober.
I got sober.
But it's a number of years later till you write this book.
Yes.
What happened in between? Tell us about your recovery. What were the first couple of years like?
Well, first of all, I started off in the traditional path, and I went to outpatient treatment for 59 days. On the 59th day, I went to my first AA meeting, and that night, I so happened I had a couple beers. And so the next day I went running into the AA meeting going, okay, you're right. I have this disease inside of me, this monster. It's trying to take me down. I'll do whatever you say. Let's just get me sober. So I went to AA. I was a faithful member. I opened the meetings. I was the greeter. I was a treasurer. I sponsored people. And about 6 months into it, my 9-month sober date, if I have to keep living like this, I'm going to get drunk. If I keep telling myself that I have this disease, if I keep telling myself that I'm broken, and if I have to keep living like this, feeling stuck, I'm going to get drunk. So they told me I was on a pink cloud because I was so happy, even though I was going through 3 bankruptcies and losing my home, and I didn't have a car, I didn't have a job, and I was a single mom.
Big cloud,
I was so happy, though. I was so happy. It's like, I'm sober, though. I have a chance to start my life over again. And so they told me I was on this pink cloud and that I was going to come crashing down and getting drunk. And I decided instead to hop on my pink cloud and ride out of the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous. And that was over 14 years ago. So it took me a little while to write the book because I had to figure out a new vocabulary, because I don't consider myself in recovery. I don't think I'm an alcoholic. I don't subscribe to the traditional beliefs or ideals around women who misuse alcohol.
So if it's not recovery, what is it?
That's a really good question.
Yeah.
So what I do is, the women that I work with do not identify as an alcoholic. And it's really, really important to understand that I respect the recovery world. I respect that if you want to call yourself an alcoholic, if you believe you're an alcoholic and you need recovery, that's fantastic, and I honor that. However, not everybody does. I don't, and the women that I work with don't. And if they were to wait until they got to the point of desperation as I was and go to the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, chances are they'd be relapsing over and over again, because they would too get like I was and like frustrated, and I can't live like this. I don't want, this life is not for me. And instead, what I do is I help them learn how to go after life. Instead of thinking I can't drink, it's no, let's go after life. Let's not focus on the alcohol at all. Alcohol's not bad. Let's instead figure out what's causing you to drink. Why are you misusing alcohol? And then let's figure out a way to work with that, and plus give you goals and aspirations to move forward.
Okay. So you started Pink Cloud Coaching.
I did.
Right. So what is your coaching practice? Like, when you meet somebody who's hungering for a different path,
right?
Where do you start with them?
What do you want? It's really that simple. But
do they know what they want?
No. That was what I was going to say. It's really that simple, but it's not that easy. Okay. And people confuse the two. So it's really simple. What do you want? And most of them don't know. One gal that I'm getting ready to release my second book, The Primed Drinker, and it talks about how we associate alcohol with things, and that's actually what leads us to misuse alcohol. But one of the gals that I highlight in that book, her name is Susan in the book, is when I first talked to her and I asked her, what do you want? She started crying. And she started crying because she had designed the life that she had, and she felt guilty because why am I not happy with this life that I said I wanted? And it wasn't a bad life, but she still wasn't happy.
Sounds like a lot of executives that I work with, right? They've reached the top of the pinnacle in the organization they wanted to run.
That's right.
And they still feel empty.
That's right.
Okay.
They've checked off all the boxes. I've done everything I wanted to do, but why am I not happy?
Okay. And what's driving that unhappiness, though? What is it?
It's just a matter of fulfillment. Yeah. So it could be anything. It could be this gal really wanted to sing. She really wanted to get back into choir. She really wanted to be felt like she was utilized and use her brain some more instead of just being what she did a fantastic job doing, teaching musical instruments on the side, but she needed something that was more engaging, something that really made her use her mind. So we just have to find what it is that makes us feel alive.
How do you when you work with someone? How do you find out how do you help them to uncover what makes them feel alive? Because we're not even talking about like just women in recovery. We're talking about 3/4 of the population.
Because
out there.
I don't work with alcoholics. I don't work with people who have a problem with drinking. I work with women who just need to learn how to take charge of their life and do what they want to do. And that's the difference. Is I'm not I'm not supporting or doing recovery. I'm instead helping a woman learn how to take charge. So what do? I have a proprietary system that I have created out of my own journals. When I first got sober, everybody asked, how come you're doing this so different? You know, you're not going to meetings, but you don't struggle. You don't even talk about it. Well, that's just it. I don't talk about it. It's not a focal point of my life. It is now because it's my work, but it really wasn't a focal point of my life. Instead, I went after life. I kept, you know, finding goals that I wanted to reach, and then when I'd get there, I'd, well, maybe I don't want to do this. But I was willing to go after it and fail, learn from that, and try something else. And I kept doing that. And so that's what I help women do too. But to get to that process, we have to go through what I call the 28-day resolve process. And we work from the outside in. So we work from the relationship with alcohol. What does your relationship with alcohol look like? How do you feel? What are you wanting to feel? And then we go to the relational environments. Everything that touches a woman's life, you know, her career, her family, her charitable work, her fitness routine, all these things. How are you, you know, how is that affected with your alcohol use, and are you happy with these areas? And then we go to the woman within. And tell me about what you wanted to do when you were growing up. What always made you happy and made you, you know, excited? What made you want to get up in the morning? And so we go back and we start looking for clues. And then the fourth week is where we bring it all together, and it's like, okay, so how do you want to move forward with this? And how can I help support you towards that goal?
So it sounds like a very time-limited process that they can move really quickly.
It's so simple. It doesn't have to be drug out, and you don't have to have a disease for the rest of your life, and you don't have to identify as an alcoholic. Now, that's not everybody, but for the women that I have worked with, it's been incredibly successful and rewarding.
So they probably come to you because they've tried other things and they still feel unfulfilled?
Both ways.
Both ways.
So I've had some women say, oh my gosh, I'm so glad I found you because I know something needs to change, but I'm not an alcoholic.
Okay.
The thing is like I said, I never existed before. My whole work has never existed before. Nobody's ever came at it this way. So what I look at, what happens typically is you're either a normal drinker or you're an alcoholic. So if you have any problems with alcohol, they automatically push you to this side that you need treatment or you need recovery or you need AA. There's nothing in between that's serving that population until now with Pink Cloud Coaching.
Got it. So if people want to learn more about Pink Cloud Coaching, you know, on your website?
pinkcloudcoaching.com. It's really simple.
Do you have any kind of self-assessment tools?
I do not, because it's not that kind of thing. You can go to, if you type in, do I have a problem drinking, it's going to give you at least 5 tests and assessments you could take, and I can guarantee you that even if you're the most normal drinker, you're probably going to need their treatment.
Got it.
Yeah.
So, all right, well, thank you for joining us tonight.
Absolutely.
Really engaging. What's next for Teresa? Now you said your new book's coming?
I have another book coming out, The Primed Drinker. It'll be out by the end of summer.
Okay, and we can also find that information on your website as well.
You absolutely can. ThePrimedDrinker.com. If you enter that, you'll come up to the page that'll give you more information, and you can find Holy Sober available on Amazon.
Thank you, Teresa. Yeah. So we're talking tonight about alcoholism. We're talking about recovery. We're talking about people finding new life through a new way of thinking and new way of living, all adding to a healthy workforce, which makes Oregon City and Oregon a great place to live and do work. My name is Michael Brand. Once again, thank you for joining us. Thanks, Teresa, for joining us tonight as well, and have a good evening.